Bad Bunny released his album, and I personally, I listen to Bad Bunny when he's in the club. Because in the club we all fam, okay.
Period.
But I can't say like I don't I can speak a little Spanish, but I really can't understand it. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Mm-hmm.
So like to me, I didn't listen to Bad Bunny's album, but when I had got to work, two of my coworkers were talking about it and talking about like, the significance in it and like what everything meant. And then they were also talking about the backlash that the album is getting, how people are saying that like, oh, like this is not the Bad Bunny that I want to listen to, this, that, and the third, talking about some, like he's focusing too much on Puerto Rico, like just release music and just like basically like shut up and dribble type of vibe. So I wanted to ask Shayla, as we saw at the top of the show, you're excited. So to me, not to me, but to you, when you listened to the album, what were some things that you were thinking? How were you feeling? You are Dominican and Puerto Rican. So what was the album like for you to digest?
So number one, I'm going to say, para los gustos se hicieron los colores, which means for your, I don't know, some things don't hit the same when you translate it, but essentially like colors were made for, for you to pick. If you don't like, if all you want to hear is, I want to F and I want to grab them by the throat and kick them through the door and splash them to the water and, and grab 4 girls and put them in the back of my car and punch. Okay, you listen to that type of music. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are artists that will give you that. There were artists that will give you the very explicit, like, I want you naked in the bed, pull your hair down, grab, boom, boom, boom. There are artists that have that for you. There are probably other albums in Bad Bunny's music that you can listen to so you can get that. But now to the good part. That is the part of like, to the backlash, go find another artist. Because thankfully, there's a bajillion artists, Apple Music, Spotify, go find the artist that you like.
Right.
I love the album. Like Rebecca mentioned, I am Dominican and Puerto Rican, and I was actually born in Puerto Rico, and I came to Puerto Rico is a part of the US. I came to Jersey when I was like 5 or 6 years old. So for me, learning about the history of Puerto Rico just felt like amazing to me. You know what I'm saying? I've always been big into dancing. Like I mentioned in the last episode, like bachata, merengue, salsa. I love that. I always have. And, it kind of makes me upset when I go to clubs and stuff and the only thing people want to do is grind and grind and grind and grind and grind and shake butt and shake butt. I'm like, please. But if that's your cup of tea, you go ahead and do so.
Take a sip.
So I loved it. I admire him being able to mix music, being able to honor those that came before him, like of the that from the island, while also like making it his own. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just thought it was amazing. And to be honest, he didn't have to do that, right? Like, he has enough money to just act like the island is not going through what it is going through, right? He was in Los Angeles, the last few months, which he said inspired this album in a sense, because he felt like, yes, he was here, but his heart will always be in Puerto Rico. Like, that's his hometown. That's where all his memories are.
Right.
And as someone that left the island at a very young age, I kind of felt that, because the first time I went back to Puerto Rico was when I was 25. Like, that was essentially like 20 years after I left the island was when I went back. And as he talks about in the album, like, a lot of people leave not because they want to, but because they want a better life. And even I see it to this day in my own personal life. Like, my brother, he is, he was born in Puerto Rico, raised in Puerto Rico. He became a nurse in Puerto Rico, but because they pay nurses in Puerto Rico literally crumbs, he had to come to, the mainland to better himself. But a lot of people leave the island not because they want to, but because they're forced to. And I love that it wasn't just like booty shaking music. Because as I've expressed, yes, I like me some booty shaking music, but not all the time. So I loved it. I love how he was able to, it was like a mixture of everything I like. I love history. I love my island. I love music and dancing and all of that. And I hope this inspires people to, learn how to dance. Like, it is fun. It is cool. If you so sexual, you can make a little bachata sexual, honey. Period. So I loved it.
Yeah. I think definitely like when I was hearing like people talk about the backlash and like my friend was showing me the comments and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
like the thing that came to my mind is I'm like, we, especially like when you come from a specific area or you are of a specific culture,
Yeah.
there's a lot of times where we see artists from that same culture that we relate to, where we're like, I wish they would just do more stuff that focused on the culture to highlight where they're from.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't just become a part of like the majority. Show how you are a minority and how, like, being a minority helps shape you for who you are. Like
Mm-hmm.
Friday, love him because he is Haitian.
Yes.
But he also mentions that in songs. Like he incorporates that in things that he does. So it's like, even though he's making a lot of American music, but he makes it a point to also have songs on his album or do singles where it does correlate to his culture.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, for me, if that's not something that you relate to, like you mentioned, keep walking. Like that's not for you. Like the people
Right.
it's made for is the people it's made for. Not everything, you don't have to feel like you're a part of everything. Sometimes you can't fit into every box. So what?
And it's like, well, people that are only Spanish speaking, they're not like, oh, well, Drake needs to change some of his music to be in English. So I mean to be in Spanish so I can understand it. Like I think people have this misconception, and I think other cultures might hate on specifically Caribbeans. I can only speak on Caribbean culture because that's what I am. Eh, We're very proud individuals. Like Rebecca, number one, she always got a Haitian flag. You know what I'm saying? Like if you Jamaican, if you Dominican, if you Puerto Rican, you always, yes, I am going to claim my culture and I'm going to talk about it. And if my thing is like talk about your culture. Like how you mad and pressed that I'm so proud of where I'm from. Like talk about your country. That's fine.
And
Who's
that's why,
stopping
like,
you?
that's why it gets me so bothered because sometimes I'm like, half of like, I will never come for, because, the history of slavery and everything. A lot of Black people don't know where they're from, right? So,
Mhm.
which is why we have like African American, because like
Right.
you were pulled from somewhere basically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like when I do hear like people try to say like, oh, like just focus on this, just focus on that. Some people are actually proud to know where they came from. Some people want to highlight that and show
Yeah.
like I should not be ashamed of this. Now, like I have my own personal opinions when it comes to Bad Bunny, especially like him dating that culture vulture, right?
Yeah, that did make me mad. But I'm telling myself, I don't think that they are dating anymore. I am thankful because his English is way better now. Of course, he still has an accent because he learned English at a older age, but his English is way better now. And so we thank Kendall for that. Thank you, Buki. But now we're
I,
back
I
to
don't think she had a hand in that, but I feel
Oh
like
no, if you're dating someone, you talking to them often. So I think that's the best way to learn a language is when you speak it often. Like because you can go to a class, but if you're not actually using it outside of a
yeah,
class, then it's not gonna
yeah,
go nowhere.
yeah,
Another point that I do want to mention before we move on to another topic is I feel like I have a like a different perspective because I am Dominican and Puerto Rican. And Dominican and Puerto Ricans are always going back and forth because they're very similar. Their cultures, their food, they have different accents or whatever. But like now there's like an internal battle that like, oh, Bad Bunny is not the best, Dembocero, and like just going back and forth. And I personally feel like I don't understand the hate and the back and forth about it because it's like Bad Bunny, he gives DR its credit for a lot of like his music, like the music of the Dominican culture and all of that. Like his first song is Me Bayol, which is like a sample piece from a very big Puerto Rican band. But it's just the moral of the story is that I cannot get the hate between Puerto Rican and DR. They're like, oh, I'm better because I'm like, well, I'm both. So I'm just like, I love y'all both. But some people feel very strongly like, we created this, you're not better at this than me. And it's like, well, we're so similar that it's like, it's okay. Don't worry. We can both shine.